This is a website that I created primarily via vibe coding. The front-end part is on Angular, so we can filter the technologies, and we have some pretty nice menu filters that we can apply or clear out. There are multiple menus and multiple filters that can be applied. We have also search, and for the CRUD functionality, we can add new technologies and delete them respectively. So let's see the tips and tricks for approaching such project using AI tools. For Angular specific, we have certain rules that we can use, and they are here in the Build with AI section of the Angular help, where you can copy those rules and, of course, according to your editor, to integrate them, for example, here in instructions.md file. This way, they will be read and taken into account with each of the chat query that we are sending to the robot. For example, we're asking here, can we optimize and simplify the core logic of the whole Angular project? And you see in the answers, they are taking into account those instructions, giving feedback. That's also very nice and acts like a guard, because sometimes the solutions that you might get from the AI might be reflecting older version or outdated best practices. So that's the first thing I advise you to do if you're working with Angular, to use such roles. Another thing for the setup is that here I have added the following extensions, and those are file exporter for AI chatbots and clip.diff. So let's see how they work. Basically, if you click on the icon of file exporter for AI, you can include what kind of files you would like to export as a context if you are using external AI tool. Here I've chosen my whole project. Of course, you can exclude files or remove them at all from the whole bundle that will be created. And when ready, you can click on this icon, export for AI chatbot, and it will create a text file which contains all the files nicely separated. And that's very handy if you want to use, for example, Google AI Studio or any other chatbot to have better reference to your project files. And now to the next extension, this clip.diff. Let's say that you've already used ChatGPT and you have the optimized version of a component, and you can go to this component. In our case, we'll look at components, filter dropdown. So this is our original code. And if you don't want to look at every line and compare this line with your code, which will take you a lot of time, you can just use the combination of Control, Alt, and V. And this will copy everything from your clipboard to your current working editor and will create diff from it. Why this is helpful? Because in this case, we can easily see what is offered from the external chatbot and our current code, and choose, of course, very easily what to keep or remove. This extension saved me quite a lot of time because everything is visual, as if you're having a local chatbot installed. All right. Next, we're moving more to the type of model that I used during this project. Basically, inside of the editor, the model was Claude Sonnet because it was offering me way better suggestions and performance than other models. And for more deep thinking over certain components logic, I was using Google AI Studio with the Pro model of Gemini. Now, from the workflow, what I noticed is that instead, when I asked for certain feature to be created, the robot was giving me incorrect rendition. I understood it is better to delete some part of the code suggestions and start anew instead of asking for the robot to refine the solution. In this regard, if I didn't like the representation or anything from the layout of the menus, and after 2 or 3 prompts, seeing that the quality was decreasing, I was just returning to the initial prompt, asking for more thinking and another solution. And here, particularly, instead of asking for the functionality of all the menus, I created just the first one and then multiplied the solution to the next ones. But this ensured that the styling and fonts were consistent. In this case, the overall suggestion is to work on single units or components, which then can be assembled into more complex ones. Another difficulty that I experienced, especially with those menus, were that I wanted to make them purely using Angular material, but unfortunately the solutions were not so clean and aesthetic as I had them in the mockup. And just because I was not committing that often, the solutions, I had to revert the code. And as you know, that's not very convenient, because not all the time in the timeline here you can have a restore state. So that's why I'm recommending, whenever you have a certain feature that looks nice to you, just to create one simple commit here and then to continue on, because the return points now Git history are way more verbose and easier than even following the chatbot logic and trying to revert from there. That's it, guys, for now. If you liked the tutorial, you can really subscribe to my channel for more. Thank you.